we have to celebrate is another question, but life is what we make of it.
Okay, so hopefully we expect the next your partner to join us shortly. That's talking about Lakunle. Yusuf will be joining us shortly. So let's get the papers before us this morning. We'll be picking up the Vanguard newspaper. We'd also have to look at the other papers, the Daily Trust newspaper, and also we've got a paper also to pick up from the Punch newspaper would also come before us, as well as the Vanguard newspaper. And then also we reach out to see stories on scholarship for people living with disabilities and more. So, Devo, let's get into it with the first one. Mayday, 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 Nigerian workers, do you copy? Let's get a copy of no, not DJ copy, but I'm just saying, do you copy this? Vanguard is the paper we're looking at this morning. The Vanguard newspaper comes across with a headline here screaming, Mayday! Federal government approves pay rise for workers as labor leaders lament hardship. That's coming from the Vanguard newspaper. So, and we look at it here. So, what manner of increment and are we looking at for this workers? They will walk us through this.
Um, I think um,
It's a laughable one.
it's not laughable. It's that compared to what workers have been through, first of all, let's explain that May Day is a day given free for workers and literally servants, people who render service globally to celebrate the efforts that they have put into becoming who they are. And literally, it's the employers' day to give those who make them who they are a day off. And normally, labor unions globally celebrate this day not just to push out their problems and their issues, but to actually put some dignity behind labor. Under the United Nations mantra, there's dignity in all labor. That's what you also have with the International Labor Organization. And I think in Nigeria, we've become so incensed that we've forgotten the dignity of labor. And corruption is literally the biggest enemy to dignified labor. And what is dignified labor? The image that is put, I remember it was an award-winning art piece I did in my secondary school, was a man carrying water, two um, barrels of water on his shoulder using that stick. You know how they used to fetch
Yeah.
water, and he was proud. And as some good books would say, worker is worthy of his wages. And it breaks down the essence of working, meaning I put in effort, I put in time, I put in my ability, and I expect to be compensated commensurately. Okay. And no one is superior to you because they're earning higher than you. Your worth is not in the amount that you earn. Hence, even a waitress or a waiter in a restaurant is dignified. You have no rights to talk to that person in a demeaning manner simply because they are serving you. And this can be applied to every aspect of life where we have service. So I'm saying this because of today, as usual, we know that on Workers' Day, May Day 1, as a public holiday, there will be march past, as they call it in Nigeria, marches taking place in the various assembly points in various state governments where the governors and the commissioners will come out, hail the workers that will be in their various colors and unions, and literally announce all the new promises that they have with them. So this year, what's the promise that the federal government, obviously knowing that labor has been at loggerheads with uh, the federal government, um, the federal government is approving an increase, and this press release came out before this date so that people would know what to expect. An increase between 25% and 35% in salary for civil servants for the remaining on the remaining six consolidated salary structures. Now, these consolidated salary structures, I will break that down also. And they've also approved a pay rise for the pensioners under the defined benefit scheme. I wish there was time to break this down because it literally affects all of us. And when I say all, meaning though the bulk of us are in the private sector, but all of us have an auntie, uncle, brother, sister, cousin, or nephew that is in the civil service, either at the federal level or at the state level. However, this is the federal government, in quotes, taking the lead. Obviously, there was a rabbit called Edo State that decided to run ahead of itself. However, um, the difference between the salary structure and the pensions, we'll break that down also. Now, the different salary structures include the compass, right? The compos, also the consolidated paramilitary salary structure, that's the compass, the intelligence community salary structure, consis, and then the armed forces salary structure, confas. And then it also includes contis, for tertiary institutions, and also CONUAS for academic salary structure. Okay, and then another one that affects colleges with education.
Oh, so,
Now,
just to get this, because we need to get onto the other
yes,
headlines. Now you've broken down the various structures that it will be covering. This 25 and 35%, we've gotten the increases now. But we understand that earlier on, some have gotten, so it means there were some persons who already are enjoying this increase already, so it won't get to them again.
yes, the head of service did say that it's effective January 1 this year. So obviously there'll be a lot of back we're in May now, right?
Yes,
This is the first day of
backdate.
May, so there will be a lot of accumulated or accrued payments that they will get. Now also also for the pensioners, which is quite important because the pension structure hasn't been shifted. And let me just put a figure to this because minimum wage is at 30,000. So if you increase it, let's even use the highest here for the sake of this argument, 35%. It means just an extra 10,000. So you're moving them from 30,000 to 40,000. And I'm sure this is the reason why they announced it ahead of time because this is not what people were expecting. I mean, if you look at even the wage allowance that they gave them of extra 25,000, why would you come back to say that the increase is only one third?
Devoe, now, how would this increase, this announcement affect what other state governors would say on this day? Do you see this as inspiring some form of something for those workers in at the state levels across the country today,
Uh,
aside from Edo State now?
a cool inspiration. I would love you to remove that word because, like I said, the wage award, which was for 6 months, which was a temporary palliative to ease the removal of subsidy and the FX harmonization, with if inflation at about 30% and above, okay, and that's even on paper. In the real sense of it, uh, cost out there from food to medical prices are hitting 50, 100%. So a 10,000 on top of that's for minimum wage earners, which are the bulk, really cannot take them anywhere. It hasn't moved the needle 1 inch.
Would this stop labor? We understand, labor and the federal government, they've been back and forth. Would this
Yes.
in itself become an argument like, so there isn't any need for you to be, agitated any longer? See, we've announced
Well,
increments
we,
already.
we wait to see how the federal government speaks to labor at the various locations nationwide. The truth is, I think this was like you know what they call stopgap because the labor negotiation was between at 200,000, if you
Yes.
remember, at the time that the naira went to 19, and some even said 100,000. So to just add 10,000 on top for minimum wage, you haven't really. In short, I don't want to refer to it as a slap on the face on the reality of which Nigerian workers face. And remember, Nigerian workers are like a million of them. They represent a fraction of the real labor force in the country. Normally, people believe that civil servants are taken care of by the government. But if civil servants can't even get home, I mean, a man or a woman with a family of four individuals, how far would this really go?
Okay, let's go over to petrol matters now. This you would have to help us run through in
Right.
about in a minute. Let's see if we can do this. The Daily Trust newspaper now reports, and this would tie fits back into this the announcement for increments in salaries now. Well, the Daily Trust reports here with the headline "Fuel Scarcity." IPMAN, that's the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, threatens shutdown or showdown over non-payment of bridging claims. Well, we're getting the picture is getting clearer while we see the queues across the country for petrol at the filling stations, right?
Right. Well, What I would say is that another side of the story is coming out with this article. You know, prior to this time, NNPC had mentioned that this disruption, this supply chain disruption, was due to logistics. Okay.
Glitch.
Yes, and it would require a few days. Let's give roughly a week to resolve, while some people said it would take about um, um, 2 weeks. And also, people were chiding the NNPC that your usual slogan of "we have 30 days supply" is being tested, and it's clear that obviously that 30-day supply is nowhere, at least within the reach of Nigerians, given the fact that you are seeing battles and very ferocious and fierce, frustrating and agonizing fuel queues nationwide, right? Now, the Independent Marketers Association, that's IPMAN, the depot chairman, has exonerated its members from the current scarcity because, you know, most times people point fingers at them and say that they're artificially hoarding the distribution. But he's saying that they will soon withdraw their services if they don't get the 200 billion that has been lingering, which is supposed to be the bridging claim. Now, for those who have followed petroleum distribution or downstream the industry in the days of DPR, remember the then scarcities were always over. Oh, what is the landing price? What is the cost of fuel? We don't know. We're not going to sell because the price is not good for us. And that question was never answered. I think Mele Kyari, within the last administration, that's the Buhari administration, they screamed when they realized that what they were doing for subsidy was eating into their pockets. At that time, it was just about 200 billion before it even went to 500. And that's when people started getting an idea of how much is being spent to bring fuel to the pump. Now, the chairman, his name is Alhaji Yahya Al Hassan. He did state that even though NNPC is the sole importer of the products, okay, but the marketers could not source the products from NNPC rather than from private depots. Okay, so apart from NNPC, people are still bringing in the product into the country, obviously at a higher cost. Now, he puts it at we cannot buy fuel at the private depots at 950, transport and the product from Lagos to the north and other parts of the country with 2 million naira and still sell at 900 or 1,000. And that's even at a rate that is obviously higher than what NNPC has been given it, because currently in Lagos it's sold at 568, and then in Abuja it's sold at 650. Now, obviously, you add the logistic cost to transport it to other parts of the nation, it goes up. Now, he's giving you the bare facts for themselves, and that's why here during this scarcity, people were buying at 1,000 or 1,400, and up north, people are buying as high as 2,000, 2,500. So, um, uh, whilst there's what I call it's double information going out here, it's a clear scenario of there obviously is a problem. Now, I just instead of complicating this matter, even if there was a supply chain gap, which is the same thing as, oh, you have not paid me the balance to be able to bridge the cost. I think apart from the NNPC, the Ministry of Petroleum needs to be speaking up. One, the National Upstream Downstream Regulatory Agency needs to be speaking. I don't understand why they sit back and just allow Nigerians groan. NNPC is not a private company. They're actually not the ones that owe us a response. The response should come from both the Minister of Petroleum and the regulator. They need to be communicating with their citizens as to what is going on and how they intend, at least if Nigerians can see a path forward. Normally, it's because we don't know when the scarcity will end. We don't believe what is coming from some of the players. Hence, the what I call it, the intensity or the ferocity of people's agony and anger at the pumps, obviously driven by panic. But the truth is, you need to hear the right quarters of government speaking. At least if we can understand the plan, what it would take, who would get what and where, I think people can work with that and calm down.
So let's move on now. Just one of the like the visual we just saw a while ago, where I talked about it earlier on before.
Yes.
See two grown men. See, that's a feast. That's a sorry sight.
It's not a sorry sight. I must say, let me just describe this for our listeners. It's a someone captured on video, an amateur video of obviously, what normally happens at fuel queues. Everybody has three heads. Everybody wants to buy at the same time. People are willing to pay more money. Black marketers are having a field day. Some people believe they're bigger than the other people and they should be attended to before others. Whilst you have your generator at home, your gas has finished. Your workers have to go because you don't have enough fuel. Your cars, and I mean, literally, it's a mess for everyone. So the point is, why do we allow ourselves to get to this
And
point?
then we decide to exchange
We
blows in
enter,
a very
it degenerates into fisticuffs.
All right. Let's pick up the Punch newspaper as we get this story moving. It's still freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1 FM. We'd like to get your what reactions to the headlines so far, looking at the increase for workers in terms of salary at the federal level, and why Ipman has been speaking now, saying the government needs to pay up arrears of about over 200 billion naira in terms of breaching claims. That's or else, well, you might not know where the next fuel will come from. Well, let's pick up this next story where Punch newspaper speaks of it here, saying healthcare cost pushing Nigerians deeper into poverty. That's according to the Nigerian Medical Association and reported by the Punch newspaper.
Well, it's a funny day for this to be said because this is May Day, and it just simply means this is not going to be a happy May Day for many workers. Okay, I've not eaten in 10 days, and you just give me one scoop of rice. Really, you're not really helping my cause. However, healthcare is among the top four pain points of Nigerians grappling with the outcome of these economic policies in terms of the increase in fuel and then directly increasing in FX, which has literally hit our multinationals and the corporations nationwide. Now, obviously, the right of life is guaranteed by everyone, but how do you live or how can you live if you can't even afford basic drugs to be able to take care of yourself? And you feel this most, we always say that a sick person does not take for granted what it means to be well. We can always talk and chit chat about this, have arguments and debates, but it's not felt in the same manner for those who are in the hospitals, those who can even afford hospitals, those who are at home grappling with one ailment or the other, simply because they can't buy the adequate drugs or get the right treatment from doctors, nurses, lab scientists, etc. Now, the health minister was speaking at a on a webinar, okay, with the Nigerian Medical Association, and they were speaking at the fact that it was becoming alarming. Obviously, the price of drugs in the nation, we didn't even have enough before. Now it's an issue of pricing as well as availability, you know. And if the prices keep going way beyond the reach of people, and you talk about common drugs like blood pressure drugs, drugs that are supposed to help those who have asthma, those who are supposed to take vaccines for non-communicable diseases, even in as much as the government is attempting to subsidize them. Even some of the hospitals, if you're giving birth at this time and you have young children who haven't taken their immunization, at this point it's becoming difficult to render that free immunization nationwide. And when you cannot render adequate immunization for kids, it means those kids will grow up vulnerable to all the medical and healthcare attacks that we have overcome in the past. Even our elderly who most times are on one medication or the other can't continue treating themselves. So it's a hydra-headed monster all the way around. And it's and when I say it's sad because most times we speak about, and I don't want to point out our leaders now, but you see, these are the hard issues that actually affect Nigerians as a whole. And I'm calling on Nigerians because it's not a problem of our leaders, it's a problem of our citizens who have failed to put their issues up front than all the sentiment of religion and and ethnicity. Our religious houses have multiplied because people who can't afford healthcare believe maybe let me try the option of faith, and in so doing, many of them end up in regrettable scenarios.
Well, thank you, Devoe. So far, you've been able to link up some from the salary increase we've heard, and we delved into the petrol, the scarcity And there
Yes.
we see what will be eating a chunk of the salary, where we looked at it with the highest point of 10K being added to the minimum wage. Let's put it at that level.
Right.
Now we delved into health already. So healthcare is a major issue,
Fundamental.
fundamental for the worker. That's it. So let's go over now. So if I ask you to pick a number between 4 and 5, which would you pick at this moment, Devoe? 4 and 5. If you've got two numbers before you, 4 and 5, where would you settle?
Um,
4, 5, where do you settle?
where do we settle?
Yeah,
Yo,
4 and 5. Let
Okay, let's go with four.
All right, let's go to 4. Let's see. Yeah. So that's the lottery you just had now. So let's go to Vanguard newspaper this morning. And then we speak here with the headline saying Taiwan eyes partnership with Nigeria to advance economic ties. Are we looking about, is it all about the Taiwan spare parts? Well, let's dig us into that story properly.
Well, but you have to be old enough to remember the Republic of Taiwan, because these days China's hold on it has literally minimized its presence in the world. But
Claim,
yes, China's what?
claim.
No, it's not China's claim. In
Okay.
history, it is. I mean, it's like Nigeria. No white man owns Africa. It is our land. If
Yeah.
you like, rewrite it. Taiwan is part of China, but America, with its incursion, the same way they're saying Russia's incursion on Crimea, um, took hold of Taiwan and turned it into an economic powerhouse, right? A lot of the electronics that we have these days, in the 80s, early 70s and the 80s, Taiwan was king in distributing electronics globally. And it's a small, very small island. It's almost twice the size of VI. So you really wonder sometimes, how do these nations do it? How do nations that don't have any known mineral resource become economic powerhouses? Well, China gave them like a 20-year enjoy yourself and give it back to us. And right now, they're letting America know that we're taking back our property. However, Taiwan, in some sort, is still operating from an independent means, and they have been communicating with the Nigerian government and saying that they're interested in some kind of trade relation partnership where they can work with our citizens, especially to upgrade innovation in business. And they're targeting people who 35 years and below. They've also said they want to support the mining industry so that we can reduce illegal mining in the country. Now, the truth is, as always, with every country, there are bilateral relationships. You can't do it all by yourself. As you can see, just imagine the way we're going about solid minerals now. If that's how we went about oil and gas, we would be a nation sitting on top of crude oil, and yet our poverty would have been times four what it is right now. So sometimes you do have to shake hands with strategic countries and partners who will support you in not only training your staff, but bringing in the requisite funding and even competence upskilling to enable your country become better than what it is. So hopefully this will not land on sound bites, but the government will actually give room and way, and then people should watch out. Let's see how far Taiwan can go. For me, I don't think it should be at the federal level. It should be something that they should bring the subnationals, the state strongly on board, especially where it regards mining.
It's still freshly pressed on smooth 98.1 FM. It's May Day. May Day. It is Workers' Day, the 1st of May. So let's see what the messages are looking like. And someone comes blaring already. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Do you copy? Okay, it goes on. I see what you've done. Oh, okay, and it goes on. You. All right, thanks so much. Chubike Roy Agu there says, but for real, it's about time we saw this as the distress call it truly is. Workers' Day should also be seen as an opportunity to examine the truth that a huge chunk of our people in government work busy shelling egusi seeds. That's melon for those who are not familiar with egusi. Well, exchanging gossip all day in the office, doing nothing of value. There are some hardworking people in the system, however, but for the large part, I think we just enable laxity in the government circle. So, by the way, on a fuel queue, got there by 6 a.m. There are 43 cars between me and the station. We have not really moved since. It is frustrating. Everybody oppresses others when they get the chance. Even the fuel attendant, they are king in town now. They're the big boys bombing everywhere. Anyway, Chubike, we just hope very soon you get into probably crossover. It's more like between Mexico and Tijuana and getting into the US. That's what
Mm.
getting into the filling station looks like right now. But let's go to Joseph Menye's thoughts this morning from Silver Estate, Egypt. He says, okay, goes on saying, when impunity is condoned without punishment, then all sorts of behavior are expected. My area, the fuel stations only operate from midnight for some hours at exorbitant prices, and during no hours during the day, operational during no hours of the day, while the Senate fight for sitting positions and the country in a dire straits. That's what Joseph Menye from Ejigbo sent us this morning. And Daniel is around. Let's see. Daniel from Festac says, well, it goes on. Are you not all tired of the propaganda about petrol and electricity? It's disappointing our media help misinform the public. If we can't know the facts about petrol pricing, let us speak the truth. And the truth is only the president and the NNPC can answer questions about petrol scarcity. And journalists should ask them until the explanation makes sense to even children. Enough of this perennial scarcity. Daniel from Festac is at it here already.
Oh man, I can
That's
imagine.
it. And Anthony comes by with a message from Tony from Marine Beach says, I would like us Nigerians to pause a bit and consider our situation today as a major oil producing country. For decades, we have not been able to and will never be able to solve this problem of fuel shortage. The answer is simple. We are in the midst of a heavy conspiracy that will never end in decades to come. We are under the clutches of some cabals, and until the citizens wake up, they will never break loose. Tony from Marine Beach. Now, we're not heading to the DBI yet, right? All right, let's go on to Abbas Oladepo saying, this increase in salary structure is not the ongoing minimum wage that labor and government are pursuing. So this is more like bonus for now, right? Okay, let's see. Let us wait for them to come out with their agreement on that before concluding for them. As for the increase, however small you think it is, people like us that work for government want it and appreciate it. We hope for more because every cover means a lot to us. That's what
Well,
a grateful worker is.
well, that's good that some people can appreciate it.
Yeah, Tayo is here with us and he says, no light, no fuel, high cost of living. Sounds like something from the Hope 93 jingle anyway, but let's go on. But we must go to parade ground and greet our leaders. It is well. Next, our final message here from Charles from Aguda Surulere. Mayday in Niger frontline, to paraphrase rapper MC
Yeah,
Red.
yeah.
Well, we just hope that the Nigerian worker have a cause to smile today and after today, and we just can hope for nothing but the best. But thank you, Devoe Okorie, for your time as always.
Yes, and like I'll just last call to the Nigerian workers. Um, while you're parading, take your time and put your issues in front of your leaders. They will all be there. Take time and let them listen to you, because sometimes government always has a prepared speech, but government hardly listens. And I would love them to use this day and hear from the workers, not just the workers' leaders. Hear from the individual workers who are dressed up.
All the
Hear,
crowd there,
yeah,
they
hear
won't
from
leave
them.
the whole of the day won't be enough to
It
hear
that
from
that
everyone.
it's once a year. Take time, because the Nigerian workers are really going through a lot, and I think government needs to at least a moment just pause and listen to these people. It's hard to dilute when the truth is coming out from those who the pinch is being felt on.
Once again, thank you, Devo. And this is where we say thank you for being part of Freshly Pressed. We'll be heading next into the locker room, and that's for everything sports at 8:15 a.m. Stay tuned. My name is Omatseye Atsenuwa. Good morning.